Welcome to Empire Building. I'm Wendy Papazan, and together with my 4 co-hosts, we bring you weekly unfiltered conversations about leadership, growing a big empire, and living on your own terms.
I'm Kimber Levitt-Mankiti. We are investors and wealth builders with over $75 million in combined net worth.
I'm Sarah Reynolds. We are visionaries who built more than 50 businesses with over $122 million in annual revenue.
I'm Tiffany Fikes. We've led thousands of people and do it all while being pretty good moms.
And I'm Seychelle Van Pool. We are your podcast to learn how to build big businesses and even bigger lives. Hi guys, welcome back. This is Seychelle, and I have the amazing Sarah Reynolds with me here today. So you get the two of us, which I'm so pumped. We're excited because we thought today would be really interesting to talk about some of the journeys that we're personally and professionally going on and what that looks like when we're processing through and going through those. And so I'm excited for us to jump in with you all because some of you may be new to the podcast and you actually are like, hey, who are these two people? And others of you that have been with us a really long time might know us quite well at this point. And so we thought it would be good to get personal and into the nitty-gritty today and sharing where we're at in our leadership and personal journeys and what's going on, and hopefully take some great tips for you to be able to implement today too.
Yeah, I always say success leaves clues, right? Failures do as well.
Mm-hmm.
So wins and loses both leave clues. So we're going to talk a little bit about our wins and losses, both personally and professionally, and give you an update. But then also, even if you're new and don't care necessarily about the update personally, but you can learn from our wins and losses. I think my win today, so today's Jersey Day at our headquarters, and I'm wearing a Washington Commanders jersey, and my Dallas co-host matches me, which is pretty.
I do.
She's wearing Commanders yellow.
Her best life yellow, Sarah. This is her best life yellow. Does this mean that I get to call your trusting blue Cowboys blue now?
No.
I feel like this could be great for me because
that was good, Say. Good pivot. That's my rapid problem solving co-host right there. Good pivot. Football season is starting and I love football. And we also have a team in Dallas and I'm constantly talking smack. And so they're getting lots of pictures of me today in my Commanders jersey. For those that don't know, Dallas Cowboys and Washington Commanders.
That's a long time rivalry.
At least a 2-decade rivalry. And so we like to have fun.
I'm hoping we're going to have a good year, but I don't know how it's going to go yet. With Jerry Jones as our owner, you never know how that's going to go.
So true. Although we can learn a lot of business.
That's what I was going to say.
Skills from Jerry Jones. Oh my goodness. Okay, tell us about a win that you've recently had and what can our listeners learn from the win?
So a recent win we had this is our 4th year. I have run our team from Northern Michigan for about 90 days in the summer. And this year was the first year that literally I changed locations from Dallas to Michigan and was up there for 2 weeks before any team member even realized we were in Michigan.
Yes.
Because it was so seamless, they didn't even realize that there was a different background. That's been my goal, is for us to be untethered from the location, but be present in the business piece of it. And something that we have started, this is our 2nd year doing this, and I have loved it, is at the end of every summer, we sit down as a family and do a download of what went really well, what would we change. And then actually this year we did it because my in-laws live 1.5 miles from us in Michigan. So it's so special. We get to share cooking meals together and we'll do happy hours on porches. It's really amazing and wonderful. And so then we did that with them this summer as well, downloading. So we did it for, the business side, what worked. We did it personally, what worked, what didn't. And then we did it with our in-laws of what worked, what didn't. And I think it's great because it allows us to set up some different mindsets, some different boundaries, some different scheduling for next summer that we can then take and grow each year because we do it for 90 days each year. And so I think that was a huge win that now the modeling of that is growing outside of us into the other parts of our world. It led for some really great conversations that we wouldn't have had otherwise.
That's awesome. So what I'm hearing you say is that you've really learned how to lead virtually.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
What are some tactical tips for our listeners in terms of what did you learn about how to lead virtually and do it well?
Well, and I need to give perspective. Is pre-COVID, I didn't think that I could leave town for more than a week without my entire business falling apart. So I just want to express what a growth area this is for us, because I would literally leave town and I would have leaders on my team. I'd call in and say, hey, how's it going? Just checking in. Well, we're just trying to keep the team together while you're out of town. I was in a completely different mindset, in a completely different capacity zone than I am now. I think the first thing with that is setting expectations when we're hiring. It's a mostly virtual model. We hire self-accountable people that want to be able to work from home because we're physically with clients, right? We're out with clients all the time.
Yep.
But we became very clear that our team identity, we can run from Zoom and we can run virtually. And so I have had team members that I can tell would be a great potential for us, but may need a physical environment. And we help introduce them into other environments that might suit their personality better. So I think the first piece in setting that up was getting really clear that this was important and that I'm not going to compromise on it. And I'm not going to squeeze my business to fit somebody else's expectations of what they need. If we're not the right environment, I am so comfortable now just being like, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's totally okay. Let me get you the right environment for what you need. And that's really freeing.
What Say is talking about is what our big mission here, right, on the podcast is a big business, but an even bigger life.
Yep.
I think a lot of times when people hear that, they're like, almost thinking that's impossible. And I think Say is showing every single listener right now and has shown me that you can literally build your business around how you define a big life. And for her, being up in Michigan was such a big part of her big life. So having to adjust, even starting with where she's hiring from or who she's hiring and setting those expectations has been critical to her success. Such gold, Say.
Yeah, it was scary, right? But then we realized, oh my gosh, we could do it for a month. And then we realized, we could do it for 2 months. And we realized we could do it for 3 months. Like, it doesn't mean I just go and eat bonbons for 90 days. I'm working. And that was actually one of the takeaways from this summer was I didn't take any time off. And so next year I'm going to purposefully take better time off to enjoy some of the time up north a little bit better. But still, it's neat that you can build your business the way you want to. Now, I know, Sarah, you've really been working hard on Good to Great. And that's been a mission of yours. Tell me, what's a win that you have going on in your world right now?
Yeah, I think, transparently, it has been for me really hard these last couple of years.
Yeah.
So in 2009, my mom, Debbie, put me in charge of the business. So I had been a licensed realtor since 2006. I was her buyer's agent. And 2009, she sat me down and she said, I think you can really build something here. We can build something here together. But the only way that can happen is if you're in charge.
Yeah.
I was young, pretty big move of hers, right? And so that was 15 years ago. So since 2009 to 2022, we were rapidly growing.
Yes.
And so you can imagine 13 years of rapid growth, and then we hit a stall. And it has been honestly, emotionally excruciating when you are so used to year over year growth. You don't realize how much your identity is tied to growth.
How did you figure that out? Just out of curiosity, how did you figure out your identity was tied to that?
A big part of that was starting therapy and things like that. Also, what's important to me, growth is one of my core values. And so that is in my core value. So part of it was understanding my values and being okay, I do not do well in situations where I don't see growth. I struggle. And that's one of the things I've loved about building a business and building an empire is you have tangible ways to see growth, right?
Yes.
And then it just stops. And I feel on this circle of uncertainty and just what is going on. And so many people are well, it's the market, My response to them is,
I don't care. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't care. That is not okay with me to make an excuse of the market. And I built the business through lots of different markets. Is it all of a sudden an excuse? No, that's not an acceptable answer to me. So it has been a lot. And then the last 3 to 4 months, God really has helped me with this. And what I did was I said, okay, Sarah, what did you do in 2009?
Yeah.
And I was let's just repeat the steps. And the first thing I did was I reread the book Good to Great. Good to Great is one of probably, arguably, maybe the number one business book in the world. I don't know what the...
Oh, it's way up there for sure.
Yeah, it has to be way up there. And so I was you've been building the business for so long. I almost was you don't need to read it. And I said, no, I'm going to redo the steps. Success leaves clues. Let's go back. What led to success? And boy, did that help me.
Nice.
I have not had this much clarity, excitement, like certainty of growth in 2 years. I feel like a new person.
You can see it.
Yeah.
Because we get to record all the time together and see each other with different board meetings. I can physically see it.
Yeah. I sent all you a text last night and said your happy friend is back. Like
Yeah.
I've just been so miserable. And part of it, there's a concept in the Good to Great book that I want all of our listeners to really hear because I think it's really good, called the Hedgehog concept. And Jim Collins, who wrote the book Good to Great, talks about how you really need to go from good to great. Because a lot of people would say, well, Sarah, you were good.
Yeah,
like
really good.
Yeah. I mean, no matter what, I still had like a 30 million plus revenue business a year. And so from the outsiders, they're like,
you got it. You got it going on.
Like, yeah, you got it. Yeah. But for me, because growth is a core value, it just,
That's not it.
yeah, I knew there was more. So in the book, he talks about, okay, to go from good to great, you must have your sort of hedgehog concept or formula built out. And so what I've learned is to really lean in to that and build it for my company and develop that. And so the first part of the hedgehog concept, so it's a Venn diagram. So it's the 3 circles and they all need to unite. The first part is to make sure that you are focused on something that you're deeply passionate about.
Mhm.
So are you in your passion zone, right? The second thing is, what can you be the best in the world at?
Yeah.
What is the thing that you do and or you can be the best at? And then the third is, what are the economic drivers of your business, right? And so what I did was I was like, okay, we need to build this for Empower Home. We need to build, what are we the best at and what are our economic drivers? And I woke up in the middle of the night, true story, in the middle of the night with a huge sense of, I am so far away. My role every day is so far away from being within the hedgehog concept for Empower Home that's why we have lacked growth, is because I've gotten away from the economic drivers, which are our agents, right? They drive our revenue. I've gotten further and further away from them. I got further away from my passion of pouring into realtors and keeping realtors with the right heart and the right values in the industry, right?
Yeah.
I was still coaching, I would say, to become the best in terms of getting sellers top dollar and things like that, which is what we do the best at Empower Home. But it was such a big eye-opener for me. And so I'm excited. Leaned into the hedgehog concept, really got clarity around what that is for Empower Home, and then made some hard decisions.
Yeah.
And so had to say no to a lot of things for me to lean into my yes. And so that's sort of my story and when.
I love that you've been on this journey and that you've been so willing to bring us along with you on it. Because what I'm hearing is, right, is you've gotten to where you are because of certain specific things that have led you there. And to take that introspective look back and to say, hold on, success leaves clues. Where I am today is not because of everything I'm doing today, right? Which a lot of people's egos would trick them into saying is, I'm here because I'm awesome. I'm here because I'm great. I'm here because I'm doing all the things. And what you did, I think, is
true,
really incredible, is that you actually said, no. I'm here because I got to go back 15 years.
Yep.
Actually. I'm not here because of what I'm doing today. I'm here because of the steps and the foundation that I laid 15 years ago. So what did I do in 2009 that brought me joy and growth and fulfillment and explosive energy? And let's go back and take a look at that and go look at those models and then examine what today is helping that and what today needs to change. And I think most people don't take that big step back. They just look 6 months ago. They look a year ago. They blame the market. They look at all these other factors instead of taking a really big step back. So I think that's a huge learning piece that I'm taking away, and I love it. Is like, what was I doing when all of this started? What was I doing when the spark was ignited? What was I doing when this catalyst happened? And do we need to go back and pull some of those things from there? So thank you for sharing that part of the journey, because that was a big aha for me, is to say, how far back do you need to go to get to your joy zone to figure out what that is that brought you to here? So that's extremely cool.
Those that were with me before are like, you're back. They literally were hugging me saying, welcome home. Like, this is the Sarah we know. And then
that makes my heart so happy.
Yes. And then I'm sure some of our team members that have been with me during the 2 years are like, who is this girl? Like, she's a lot. Cause like, I'm big into speed and like speed of the leader, speed of the pack. And when I clarity, I'm extremely fast. And so they're like, whoa, like she is moving fast. I'm like, yeah, keep up, speed leader, speed of the pack.
Let's go. Let's go, baby.
Let's go. Cause we have clarity. And so it's pretty powerful. So those are our wins. Let's talk about 2 maybe like recent losses.
Yeah.
In terms of what are we learning or what can our listeners learn from some losses?
One was one of our sales leaders resigned last week from our organization. And it was someone that if I'm being fully transparent, like I could actually see us growing with in the long run. And so it kind of came out of the blue and was unexpected. I feel like I'm usually pretty good about predicting behavior. And so this one, because it caught me so off guard, I really needed to go back and assess like, where as a leader did I fail this person? Where did I go sideways? What could I have done better? I think ultimately 2 pieces. Number one was I allowed this person to define their one thing as not what their one thing was. And I gave a lot of autonomy to say, like, I believe in you and I trust your intuition and you run with it. But ultimately what that meant was that they allowed themselves to be distracted by different one things than what the real one thing was. And so then when they weren't seeing the growth that they wanted to see or that we all wanted to see or the results that we were wanting to see, when I look back, it's because we allowed distraction instead of extreme pressure on the one driver that would have driven growth. And when I kept putting pressure on that, I think what this person was feeling was they had all these other things they wanted to do. And I said, yes, and this is the one thing over here that's going to drive the results. But that made them feel like I wasn't supporting them and I was not trusting their intuition because I had empowered them for all these other things. And so I think really at the beginning, getting extremely clear with like, this is the one thing and nothing else matters would have been a big helper. Another thing that we're failing forward on
let's pause because you can't drop gold like that and then like... That is a big takeaway, right? So like making sure, like, do you know before you hire someone, right? Like when you're hiring someone, like, are you clear with them of the one thing that is the most important for them to win in their role? So that's what Say is saying that she learned here is like maybe better expectation setting from the beginning and not all of the things that...
Not all things matter.
No. Right now, I don't know why, but Gary Keller, who is the founder of Keller Williams, author of multiple amazing books, has been coaching me one-on-one about every other week. And so he has been navigating through the changes. And the first call he had with me recently when the changes were sort of like final is he was helping me coach my leaders. And he said, a lot of leaders, like what Say's describing is exactly what he's talking about. A lot of leaders see all of these problems. And they almost divide up their energy focus on all of them because they feel like they have to fix all of them. Instead of asking, what's the first domino that is literally going to make everything else after that easier? So what's the one thing? I think what we're hearing from Say here is making sure that you are clear with your people about what that one thing is. And if they think it's different,
you need to work to get alignment.
Yes.
And that's the part that I think where my rapid problem solving was a problem for me. Because Sarah and I talk about like I am on rapid problem solving like a 10 plus out of a 10, like really rapid. I have a strong filter. I'm not going to go fly off the rails, if that makes sense. Like it doesn't show up as me flying off the rails, but I just am a really fast problem solver.
You see solutions very quickly and you actually see all solutions quickly. So what can be confusing is to like, you have 10 solutions to the problem, like within seconds. And I'm like, oh my goodness.
You're like, can we define the problem?
Yeah, seriously. Exactly.
We're so good for each other because you force it to slow down to say, let's make sure we're solving the right problem.
Yes.
And then I'm like, okay, I got a bunch of ideas for you. It's a great problem. And I think what happened is I rapid problemed to the solution faster than I brought this leader with me there. And so I'm already 10 steps ahead going, but this is the problem over here. This is I hear you saying you have all these other things. This is the problem over here. And they're like, kind of like, how dare you disrespect my leadership capabilities? And I'm like, no, for real. This is the problem. Like if we solve this problem, everything else becomes a moot point. And they're like, but I don't want to solve that problem. I'm like, well, that is the problem. We're going to put pressure on this problem. And after a couple of weeks of that, they're like, I don't want to solve that problem. I'm not going to solve that problem. This is not the problem I want to solve. And I'm like, okay, well, that is the problem. Like without that, nothing else matters.
So it was like speed of the leader, speed of the pack, but would say it was like speed of the leader, like potentially lose the pack.
Yeah. I was like, speed of the leader, kill the pack. I was like, that was not the plan.
Yeah. Well, I think it's common with leaders that have your makeup, to be honest. Like I have multiple in my world that are very similar to you. And what can happen is it's actually a level of intelligence that a lot of us don't have, like, to be honest. And so what can happen is they don't understand how you got there because their brain doesn't work like that. And so what Say is saying is like, if you are quick, like make sure don't leave your pack behind.
Yes.
Like you can be fast, but for them to have buy-in to the solution, you've got to slow down.
Yeah.
To make sure that they can understand it.
Yeah.
Wow.
I wish too, Sarah, that like in the hiring, I had slowed down enough to make sure we were explicitly clear on that one thing. Because I think I understood that and they didn't. And I made we all know what assumptions do. I made assumptions. And it stings because it's like, we paid this person for 6 months. We paid bonuses out. We like built trust and rapport with them with the sales team. And then just all of a sudden out of nowhere, they're out. And so, you think about the cost of a hire, that's easily a $80,000, $90,000 mistake right there. Right?
Yeah.
Like that's ugh.
You'll get an ROI on that.
We will. And this person is a wonderful person and they did a lot of wonderful things to move the needle forward in a bunch of different areas. And so I'm very thankful for them and I want nothing but the best for them. And I want to make sure I'm explicitly clear with that. But I also want to be transparent, right? Being vulnerable and authentic is a core value for us.
Yep.
I wouldn't feel authentic without sharing that for you.
Yep.
Sarah, what's a failure on your end that you're experiencing right now?
Yeah. So, I talked about the win professionally and I also have lots of losses there that we could talk about. But I do want to add in, it's not fair to our listeners, I think, when we talk about just business, right? And I know that Say started it off more on a personal life note. And so for me, sort of a recent loss, I would say for me is I've really been struggling with my health, actually. So for a lot of our listeners know that I've been on like a 4-year journey.
Big journey.
Yeah, lost almost 100 pounds. And I went a little bit crazy for my birthday. So turned 40 this year and basically took June off with my health as well. And it's a reminder for me. I'm back, with working out more consistently again. And it's a reminder for me about habit building,
Yeah.
Life is so much a journey and we have ups and downs. Not one of us here on the podcast is perfect. We want you to hear where we're struggling and we want you to know that sometimes we can look like a rock star for something for 5 years and then all of a sudden that exact same thing we're
is not great.
Not good. And for me, I have a lot more empathy for those now that come up to me and say, I've tried to get my health back on track and I can't. And that was me for decades, right? But once you build these health habits, you sort of start being a bit judgmental, to be honest. People like, it's not that hard. But really, it was so hard 4 years ago. And I'm back to the hard of building those habits back up and how quickly things can change. And so thankfully, I've gained about 10 to 15 pounds. And thankfully, I've started losing again over the last couple of weeks. But big lesson of be very careful when you stop a habit.
Can I ask a question? I think this is a really, really good lesson. How long are you willing to let yourself get off track before you get back on?
Yep.
I'm so glad that you took a break for your birthday month and that you had fun. And like what I am hearing is maybe that there was not a plan of what the restart looked like afterwards and the purposeful mindset of like, I'm going to take a break and then this date is my date I'm back on. Or like for me, like when I take a break, I'm like, okay, the Pilates is already scheduled for next Tuesday. So I'm back in on this date. Like, did that look like something or like, would you change it now? I'm just curious.
Yeah. Going in, it was like, okay, I'm going to have a month. I've worked so hard over the last 4 years. Like, I'm going to just eat what I want. I'm going to, like, if I don't feel like working out, I'm not going to.
Yeah.
And thankfully, I kept my steps going. But really, a 1 month sort of plan turned into a 3 month.
There you go.
First of all, a month is too long.
Okay, so that's good to know.
Yeah, like what I learned is that I can be off habit for a week and get back on pretty quickly. But anything over a week for me, for my health moving forward is a no.
That's the lesson. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the lesson. But yeah, it's been hard. And so all of our listeners that struggle, I'm with you. And I want to encourage you, if you're struggling with your health, to join me on getting back on track and or maybe starting the track, which I started 4 years ago. But join me. And I will be the best I can to be transparent on social and all of the ways that you can follow us and even on the podcast, because it is definitely not the easiest thing to do. And we've got it. We can do it.
But it's worth it. It's absolutely worth it. And
it's worth it.
Thank you for your vulnerability and transparency in that, because I think it's something, especially as we get into our 40s. You and I are both now officially in our 40s, which is by far my favorite decade so far. Just throwing it out there. 40s are amazing. But your hormones change, your energy changes, your sleep changes, your metabolism changes. And so it's like you have all these extra factors working against you that we didn't have in our 20s and 30s, which I think is highly rude because I feel like we've earned at this point to have some stacking in the other direction. Yeah. But I love your vulnerability and transparency in that because it is a journey for all of us. And we're all trying to figure out what that looks like as we age together and build that big, beautiful life. So I love that you're doing that because it means it's a long, big, beautiful life that you're having. And that's an awesome thing too.
Thanks, Say. Well, guys, we taught some lessons today on how to go from good to great, whether it's good to great in your leadership style of, hey, I want to learn how to lead virtually, whether you're going from good to great with really keeping within your passion zone and what you do best and making sure that you're continuing to move those economic drivers, whether you want to go from good to great in terms of hiring and lessons learned from hiring, or want to go from good to great for your health. Both from looking at our wins and looking at our losses, you can learn how to go from good to great. So get out there, turn that big business into a big, great business, and also turn that big life into a big, great life. Bye, guys. Thanks for joining us today.
Bye, guys.
This podcast is for general informational purposes only. The views, thoughts, and opinions of the guest represent those of the guest and not KWRI and its affiliates, and should not be construed as financial, economic, legal, tax, or other advice. This podcast is provided without any warranty or guarantee of its accuracy, completeness, timeliness, or results from using the information.